the most important way that it shows up in my work is my belief, which I think is a culturally based belief. I think it comes from being Indian, which is the notion that information comes from nature, that it's not a construct of the human mind or the human brain, which may or may not be the same thing. It depends on how the various scholars use the term. In indigenous worldview, the notion is that everything, the land is the source of everything. And I'm learning to use the term nature as the source of everything, because what I'm coming to understand is that the term the land, which means that to me, to a lot of people, means like a piece of ground, and it's about that thick, and that's not what I mean. So if nature is the source, in indigenous worldview, nature is the source. The land gives human beings dreams, language, ritual, dances, music. It's the source of our knowledge. It's the source of our being, in the same way that biology and geology tell us that nature is the source of the molecules that make up our bodies, right? So, I mean, we're made of molecules that circulate constantly, that become parts of the trees, and they're flowing around in the air, and they get put into new limestone deposits in the sea as the rain falls down on them. So we're literally constantly circulating back and forth, and we're made of nature. And in indigenous worldview, we're made of nature conceptually as well as physically. We're made of nature culturally as well as physically, which is why place is so important in indigenous worldview, because the specific place you're in is going to affect then who you are.
Exactly.
Right? But as a result, then, if information, if knowledge, if understanding, if dreams, if art, if drama, if they all come from the same source, they're obviously all the same thing. They're connected. They're manifestations of one single comprehension. Well, what that means then is that, of course, the information that's coming through a dream, and the information that's coming through a piece of art, and the information that's coming through your microscope, they need to agree in some way. And so you need to integrate them to have a full picture of what's going on. It's almost like an ecology of learning. You have to bring what you learn from all these different kinds of information together and integrate them to have a full picture. And if you don't have some of them, you're not going to have sustainable information, because it's so much is missing. It's sort of limping on a peg leg. In the same way that if you have an ecosystem and the lake dries up and the grasses die and the trees all die, and then because of that there's no more birds, and what do you have left? You have a very tiny, impoverished kind of ecosystem that really can't function. And the more you lose, the less it can function. So, in this kind of view, as you lose being able to understand through art, to understand through story, to understand through spiritual experience, as those things drop out, your knowledge of what is, your understanding of it, becomes more and more impoverished. We become more and more crippled. And then, as it makes sense, as we become more and more crippled, we make worse and worse decisions.